Of Natasha and Douglas. Let's take a listen at this video first.
In 1917, over 100 years ago, Arthur Balfour, the British Foreign Secretary, a card-carrying anti-Semite, a man who had denounced the evils of Jewish immigration into the UK, a man who referred to Jews as an alien and hostile people, he issued his Balfour Declaration, which promised a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine.
Okay, and that is absolutely 100% true what Mehdi Hasan he just said. Arthur Balfour, he from the very beginning, later on he changed his position in regards to the Jew, the immigrant coming to UK and to US. But he was a white supremacist who was totally against Jew immigrant coming to England. Take a look at this article here. The public fund. Okay, I'm just going to be actually making the public found a sympathetic year in Balfour in 1905. While serving as Prime Minister, Balfour presided over the passage of the Aliens Act. This legislation put the first restrictions on immigration into Great Britain, and it was primarily aimed at restricting Jewish immigrants coming to Jewish immigrants. According to historians, Balfour had personally delivered passionate speeches about the imperative, the wave of Jews fleeing the Russian Empire from entering Britain. In other words, when he was talking about the anti-Jew, he was anti-Jew in the beginning, as I said. He was even quoted saying that not all men are born equal. But take a look at this one a little bit more here. It may seem astonishing that Balfour, whose support of the Zionist cause has made him a hero among the Jews, would have implemented anti-Jew law. But the truth is his support of Zionism stemmed from the exact same source as his desire to limit Jewish immigrants to Britain. In other words, Balfour, when he saw there is going to be some political gain for him by supporting the Jew immigrants, he changed his tone, which was in the beginning, he was totally anti-Jew. He did not want them to come to England. In 1905, I'm talking about. And then later on, this white supremacist, Arthur Balfour, he changed his position on the Jew. And then he worked with the Jew, and then he promised them a land in Palestine. This is what he did. And so when Mehdi Hasan, he quoted him as saying that he was against the Jew, he was right. But at the same time, we have to understand when Natasha was quoting him, she was also right, because again, Balfour, he changed his position over this issue multiple times, especially in the later part of his career, when he saw that by supporting the Jew, it will solidify his political position in UK, and that it will become very much popular, because the UK, the British people, they slowly started to support the Jew, the immigrant coming to their country. He changed his position, and then he was like, yeah, this is exactly what we need to do, and that we will be giving them a land. They have suffered a lot, and he went on to praise the Jew even more. Now, if you take a look at the second clip here, I want to play the next one.
This room, and to Douglas and Natasha, the International Criminal Court, the International Court of Justice, the UNHCR, UNICEF, Doctors Without Borders, Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, Oxfam, Christian Aid. Yep, you're booing. What does it come to when you're booing Oxfam? What does that tell you about yourselves? You're sitting here booing Oxfam to defend Benjamin Netanyahu.
Okay, so basically you can clearly hear that somebody was talking over him. And this is what gets the Zionist under their skin. They do not want to hear the truth. Every time you speak against them, every time you, not against them, but every time you present facts that go against them, they cannot handle it. It gets under their skin. And this is why also you see a lot of these Zionist supporters, these monsters, coming on Twitter, coming on X, praising this debate for Natasha and Douglas. Oh, they have won, when we know they cannot handle the truth and they don't watch the whole debate. They do not understand. They cannot hear anything.
Let me just deal with something you just said. You talked about debunking propaganda. First of all, you can't even get Israeli propaganda straight. The Israeli government's own security agency, Shin Bet, investigated what you just said and said, no, we found no evidence that workers from Gaza were involved in the October 7th attack. Oh, Shin Bet are lying. They're booing Shin Bet, the Israeli security service. Got it. All right, let me finish my point. You had a 5-minute speech from your side. Okay, that's Shin Bet. Let me just deal with your wider point here. Douglas. to make this entire debate about October 7th. I get it. It's a horror show. But that's not the debate. The debate was about Zionism, and it tells you a lot that they can't find any arguments to say, as Gideon says, why we can't be allowed to criticize a political ideology that is 150 years old, that many Jewish people have criticized from the beginning and continue to do so.
Okay, so basically when, also it reminds me, when this Natasha, she was talking about how Mehdi Hasan was trying to redefine anti-Zionism. She said he should not be because he's an anti-Zionist himself, which is not true, because when you criticize a political party, a political movement that had been criticized by its own people over the past 100 years, you do not become anti of that political party. You do not become an anti or enemy of that movement, because if that is the case, then people who are Zionists, they will become anti-Zionist at the same time, as Mehdi Hasan he referred. But for Natasha, she is trying to force us, impose on us this belief that somehow Mehdi Hasan, he is an anti-Zionist, nobody else is anti-Zionist, just Mehdi Hasan, therefore he doesn't have the right to define what is anti-Zionism. I mean, Natasha, come on. Would you tell the Zionists themselves that you do not know what anti-Zionism is because you are going against your own political movement, in this case Zionism? No, you are not. This is ridiculous to ask a Zionist to become an anti-Zionist just because they have criticized that movement. But Natasha, she is trying to score some point, and so this is what she has to say about Mehdi Hasan.
Without you noticing, but the proposition are not going to allow him to pull the wool over your eyes and conflate Zionism with politics. Who has the right to define Zionism? Well, apart from the proposition in this debate, because that's how the rules work. Would you ask a misogynist to define misogyny? Absolutely
ridiculous proposition she is bringing on the table. Absolutely ridiculous. Because when you are criticizing any movement, any entity, any group based on facts, then of course you have all the right to do so. The only thing that you do not criticize is something that is absolute fact, absolute truth. It cannot make mistake. Everything other than that can be criticized. So for Natasha, if you criticize Zionism, which a lot of Zionists, they themselves criticize the movement itself, the Jew, a lot of hundreds of thousands of Jews, they criticize Zionism. According to her understanding, her definition, and what she's trying to accomplish here, these are all anti-Zionist. So the Jews themselves are anti-Zionist. Israeli people living, the Zionists themselves, they are anti-Zionist at the same time, because they criticize their government, they criticize the action of this political entity. Because obviously we have seen how these family members of these hostages, they're coming out criticizing their government, criticizing the decision makers. But again, for Natasha, you do not have the right, nobody has the right to criticize Zionism, this political entity whatsoever.
So let's return the compliment. Natasha lied when she talked about UNRWA and terrorism. The UN set up an independent inquiry, asked the Israelis for evidence. I know you don't want to hear this. They asked the Israelis, she's parroting propaganda from the Israeli government. The Israeli government was asked to give evidence. They refused to give their evidence. Every Western government, including your own, Canada's, has restarted funding because they looked at the evidence and didn't see it.
Okay, two things I want to make mention of. Number one is the audience. These are all Zionists. Whoever came to this debate, these are all rigged. The poll, the survey, the opinion, everything was, the vote, everything was rigged. Because whenever he will, the way I know it is very simple. He is presenting facts that they cannot refute. I have not seen a single rebuttal coming from Natasha or from Douglas what Mehdi Hasan said. Not a single rebuttal. This whole auditorium is all staged. They intentionally invited the Zionists from Israel, from US, from other part of the country, from Canada also, because it's happening in Canada, looks like. And so when Mehdi Hasan presents the fact, they go like boo boo. Like these are people, they're hired, they're paid, maybe a lot of them, and they were brought here on purpose, not to hear the truth, but to boo this presenter Mehdi Hasan, and to at the same time clap at their own puppets, which is in this case Natasha and Douglas. Whatever lie or whatever porkies they will spit out, this audience, they have just one purpose coming here, which is to clap them, to encourage them, and to agree with them. But every time Mehdi Hasan will present them with facts, even they, when Mehdi Hasan said, you are criticizing Oxfam, a non-profit organization, you are criticizing Shin Bet, you are and he said Shin Bet themselves they said the facts what Israel government is claiming is absolutely not true. They are booing their own Shin Bet, their own intelligence. They're booing this Oxfam non-profit organization, and the reason for that is obviously they do not or never came here to hear the truth, but to support a Zionist movement, Zionist cause, and the lies that they're spitting. So this overall, debate was a comprehensive victory for the pro-Palestinian people who are standing up for their rights and for justice. And I don't see how the Zionists should be happy about this. They were exposed, and they were absolutely they should be ashamed of the lies and not supporting the truth in this case. They should be absolutely ashamed of it.